This week on Motorcycle Experience, our ultimate ride continues due north of Algonquin Park in Ontario as we celebrate Canada's 150th anniversary of Confederation. Then, during this week's Red Adventure along the north shore of Lake Ontario, Toni Sharpless is taking a closer look at protecting your hands. Speaking of clutch levers and shifting gears, our on-staff riding instructor Jenn has suggested that we all need some after-class practice this week. While over in the garage at Origin8or Custom Cycles, custom bike builder Rob Chappell is painting the frame on our project bike. All this and more on Motorcycle Experience. Hello and welcome to Motorcycle Experience, the voice of motorcyclists everywhere. I'm Dave Hatch, and this week we've got another jam-packed show for you with the ultimate ride, the Red Adventure, shifting gears. But before we get to all that, let's check out this week's road test of BMW's all-new S1000XR. When it comes to adventure riding, BMW takes this segment very seriously. Always has. I mean, after all, they pretty much created this segment back in 1980 when they first launched their groundbreaking GS machine. But more recently, the pure adventure segment has started to spin off some subcategories, such as the adventure sport category. Adventure bikes that lean more towards eating up twisties rather than dirt. In an effort to fulfill your appetite for that style of taking to the road, BMW recently launched their liquid-cooled 1000cc inline 4-powered S1000XR. At the heart of the XR is the wonderful 160 horsepower sport bike power plant lifted from BMW's capable racetrack spec S1000R. The chassis is also derived straight from the R, but the steering head and swing arm have been tweaked to give you more of a relaxed, long-distance riding position. Sticking with the sports riding menu, you also get the R's trick Brembo brakes with ABS and traction control, plus you have selectable rain and road modes for your engine mapping. And there's even a quick shift option, Gear Shift Assist Pro, for clutchless upshifts and downshifts. Yep, you've pretty much got enough power, brakes, and serious suspension bits to keep you flying down the twisty highway for years to come. But you don't have to take my word for it. Just ask this week's test rider, adventure rider, Kevin Burnett. So Kevin, this is a really interesting adventure bike. It's like somebody said, let's take a racetrack engine and stuff it into an adventure bike.
Let's see if they like it, yeah.
Yeah, so what did you think?
I like it.
Yeah.
Well, at first it was hard to get used to having higher RPMs all the time, but then you love it and you get used to it. It's a bit addicting.
Yeah.
I can see why sport bike guys travel long distances on their bike because they just love the RPM.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
So let's talk about that engine because the bike has such a great snarl to it.
Yeah, when you get on the gas it snarls, but when you're just cruising it's dead quiet, nice. There's no drone, there's nothing echoing around in your head. But when you get on it, you know, and it's alive and it just leaves.
Yeah, gobs of power.
Yep, 160 horsepower.
And then you reach for the shift lever with your toe, and it's like butter smooth shifting, and it's got the shift assist. What did you think of that?
Shift assist it's basically predicting your next shift, your next move. You're just touching. You just hold the throttle, touch, 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 touch. You just keep going through the gears, and it's like you're a pro rider. It's got the beautiful sound coming out the exhaust. Bop, 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 bop. Just wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So butter smooth shifting, great sound, lots of power.
Yeah.
And then brakes.
Huge brakes. Yeah. If you squeeze that lever, you better be serious about it, and you better be hanging on because it'll stop now. The handling is amazing. That's what's really been. I've been dwelling on that for the last 24 hours. I've spent some time on on-ramps, getting used to how it handles, and it's amazing how well it handles. Very stiff chassis, so I mean torsional rigidity is all there, but the ride is still smooth. Yeah, right? It's really well laid out.
Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with this suspension setup.
Yeah, electronic suspension. Yeah. So you've got a couple different modes on this one, road mode and dynamic mode. So if you really start hammering on brakes, it will stiffen up the chassis so you don't dive as much. Right? Road mode is pretty normal. Again, it compensates for speed with the dampening.
Yeah. Comfort-wise, for me, I found that the riding position was very nice, but I'm 6 foot tall, you're a little taller than me.
I'm 6'4", and the unfortunate part is they gave us the low seat option, but still I'm fine with that. It's a really nice seat to handlebar position. It's definitely adventure bike friendly position, upright, wide bars.
Yeah.
If I had my option, I would go for the taller seat, and that would give me a little more legroom.
Yeah.
But overall, quite comfortable.
So anything disappoint you, Kevin?
No, I'm really impressed with how well this windshield works. It looks really minimal, but it works great.
Yeah.
They must have spent some time because the air is coming underneath. There's no billowing, no buffeting going on.
Yeah.
I'm impressed with how that small windshield does very, very good.
Yeah. What's going to be your lasting impression? You get to keep this for a couple more days.
Yeah.
What will you do with this bike over the next couple of days?
I'm going to throw the wife on the back, and we're going to go do some long Muskoka roads, big curves, because it handles awesome.
Yeah. So I'd say if you can't find anything wrong with a motorcycle, you're giving this 2 thumbs up.
I am. Very good bike.
Thanks, Kevin.
You're welcome.
Hang in there, we've got plenty more experience still ahead. Next, Toni Sharpless takes the gloves off, while Norm Wells and I continue our 100% made in Canada fall ride. Stay with us. Portions of this broadcast are brought to you in part by Honda Canada, Suzuki Canada, and BMW Motorrad.
Welcome back to Motorcycle Experience. I'm Dave Hatch, and it's time now to check in on this week's Ultimate Ride. Today, Norm and I are pushing for the Big Nickel, but before we get to Sudbury, we're gonna pull over in Mattawa.
Okay, Norm Wells of BMW Motorrad and myself pack up our motorcycles each fall and set off to explore a new destination somewhere here in Canada, with the occasional trip further afield south of the border. This season, given that it was the 150th anniversary of Canada's Confederation, we decided that we should pay tribute to this great country of ours by exploring some classic Canadian roads and historic sites right in our own backyard. Day one into our fall colors, maple leaf inspired trip was jam-packed as we headed northeast from BMW Motorrad's headquarters in Richmond Hill, Ontario, hitting towns like Bobcaygeon along the way. From there, we continued in an easterly direction towards the mineral capital of Canada, Bancroft, for a bite of lunch at Zare's Deli and Bakery before pushing towards the Ottawa Valley and pinning it through the 5 Series twisties before reaching Pembroke, Ontario, nestled next to the Ottawa River. On day 2, we headed west along the Trans-Canada Highway from Pembroke, with Sudbury plugged into our GPS as the ultimate destination for the day. But before we hit the Big Nickel, we had some serious landmarks to hit along the way.
So Norm, here we are midway through day 2 in this season's Ultimate Ride, our 17th Ultimate Ride, and we're in Mattawa. And we've been following the Ottawa River since we left Pembroke this morning, and I thought, let's stop here because this was the site of the Hudson's Bay. They established a trading post here back in the 1820s. And I mean, it doesn't get any more Canadian than that when you talk about the Hudson's Bay.
Absolutely, and apparently that was to control the fur trade at that time. Yeah, it's been a good ride so far today. We left Pembroke this morning at 8 o'clock or so, and made our way through Petawawa and Chalk River and Deep River. Petawawa, obviously we got close to the base, but we couldn't get into the base. But actually there's some little interesting facts about Petawawa if you didn't know. It was actually an internment camp during WW1 and WW2. So there was a lot of German and Italian families, and at that time they were called alien enemy. That's what they were labeled at that era, but there was families that spent the whole duration of the war in Petawawa.
You're right, I did not know that. Well, you know, we're celebrating the 150th anniversary of the country, and I just thought, CFB Petawawa, let's just pay tribute to our troops and say thank you. We've got a great, you know, Canadian military. So that was sort of the reason for stopping there. And then we tried several times. We went to Deep River, and we had a look at the river. It's one of the deepest points in the river, over 400 feet. And Chalk River, well, I thought, you know, CANDO reactors, our nuclear program, like let's you know, salute, you know, what we've done in terms of nuclear power, but you can't get to any of those sites because of, well, they're nuclear power plants.
Exactly. I don't think they want us snooping around down there.
Yeah, I mean, we also even tried at Rolfton,
Yeah.
the site of one of our very first nuclear projects, 1962. They lit up the grid there, but you can't get down there to see anything.
But Rolfton also opened up another opportunity, because remember we took a little ride down towards the water to see what it looked like down there, and we ended up crossing into Quebec.
Yeah.
So there's opportunities every now and then that you can cross over into Quebec if you want to do some touring through there, or on the south side of the 17, you can break off and take some of these little loops, because you know, they'll eventually find their way back to the 17. So there's still other opportunities other than the 17.
Right. So we're sort of at the midway point now as we cross over Algonquin Park. 17 has been great, like really great pavement, no cracks. And I actually like the road. I think it's been a really nice, entertaining road to ride.
Yeah, definitely. And since Rolfton, it's gotten very mountainous, so a lot of elevation changes, so a fun road.
Yeah.
And lots of scenery, lots of vistas when you come over the hills. Yeah, beautiful.
So from here, it's on to North Bay. We start riding over the top of Lake Nipissing and on to Sudbury for this evening. So I'd have to say, you know, it's a little cloudy. The temperature's not too bad, but so far, it's been a great ultimate ride.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get going.
We'll hit it.
Next week, be sure to tune in as Norm and I continue to follow the Trans-Canada Highway west to Sudbury. For now, let's catch up with Toni Sharpless and her friends Mike and Michelle Bell as they enjoy a day ride up to Pigeon Lake, north of Port Hope, Ontario.
So Toni, we have this beautiful fall day. We've been out for a ride with Mike and Michelle, and pulled over with this beautiful lake view in Port Hope. And I said, let's just pull gloves from everybody's backpacks. Let's just have a look at what everybody's wearing today, and gather everything up and do a segment on gloves, because you may be thinking, I don't need gloves. It's so beautiful and warm right now. I'm not even gonna wear gloves. And I think that is just like wrong on many levels.
I agree with you, Dave. You know, with gloves, I think that you need protection on your hands, first of all, for hanging on to the handlebar properly. And then your natural tendency is, of course, to break your fall and put your hand out if you're to fall over.
Yeah.
And protect that wrist bone. That seems to take the impact when you do that.
Yeah.
So, you know, even in parking lots, that's when you're going to fall over, juggling from one gas pump to the other, you know. Sometimes
or just pulling off on a little gravel piece like this, you might put your foot down and slip if you're not paying attention.
Exactly. So it goes with my theory of bring an umbrella, then it won't rain, right? When you're prepared, the event may not happen.
Yeah. Now this is a typical fall day, right? So let's paint the scenario. It was cold this morning.
Right.
8 degrees. So what did you wear when you left the house?
Well, I wore a full gauntlet glove with a Hypora liner in it. So the Hypora gives me wind protection and water protection if it ends up raining during the day.
Right.
And it has a warmth liner, so it was nice and warm for the cold weather this morning.
And Mike went even heavier with these. These are really insulated.
Yeah, these ones are actually electric, so you can plug these in the event of it being really cold and you're doing some really long distance. So it has a plug-in option.
Nice. Then you said by lunchtime you're going to switch to something lighter.
Yeah, well, my go-to gloves is a Gauntlet sport bike glove. It's got lots of protection on it, and they just mold to the handlebar. That's why I like them. There's other options when you get to hotter weather, something that's perforated, but you still want to look for the armor that I was referring to. You know, on the knuckles and on the palm, and for that wrist. That wrist bone that we're talking about. And some people like a short gauntlet, you know, just a short glove.
Nice.
Yes.
Well, you've given us lots to think about, and I think we're ready. The break is over. I think it's time to keep riding.
Yeah, let's go.
So let's just take our gloves and get out of here.
Let's go.
Nice stuff. Good stuff.
Up next, Jenn Martin says it's always time to practice, practice, practice. Plus, we'll look into the progress of this season's Yamaha project bike. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Motorcycle Experience. I'm Dave Hatch. It's time now to look in on the progress of our Yamaha project bike at Origin8or Custom Cycles. This week, builder Rob Chappell, well, he wants to completely strip the bike so he can paint the frame.
All this season, Rob Chappell over at Origin8or Custom Cycles in Oshawa, Ontario, is hoping to transform right before our eyes a brand new and thoroughly ultra-modern Yamaha FZ7. He wants to turn it into a funky, retro-themed street scrambler. To date, we've looked in as Rob has stripped the Yami of its futuristic bodywork and saddle, its 5-piece plastic molded tank, and the stock pipe and lighting system. Today, Rob is turning his attention to the bike's frame.
Well, Rob, I just can't believe the transition in the past couple of weeks. Clearly, there's been some powder coating going on.
Right. So, yeah, we tore the whole bike down to basically the engine on the ground, and then rebuilt it up. But while it was, apart, we sent the frame off, fender mounts, top triple, and we had them all powder coated.
Right.
So yeah, the guys at Flash Fire Coatings do a fantastic job here in Oshawa. They sandblasted the whole thing down for us and then went to town. This is a root beer metallic burst is the color.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I love it. It's like 1972.
Yeah.
It's a great color. So how long did it take you to just strip the whole thing down? What's
it's kind of funny. You would think it'd take a long time.
Yeah.
But, like my friend was calling me and, how you doing that bike? And within a couple hours, I had the whole thing apart.
Couple of hours.
Yeah, it was right down to nothing. I mean, mind you, we were at this stage.
Yeah.
That's not including bodywork and everything else that comes off. But
yeah,
it wasn't too hard.
Okay, so frame clearly has been powder coated. You mentioned the fender mount up here.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to make that black?
So the idea with this bike is to kind of mute the colors down a bit, and the stock mounts were silver, which I think was a little too loud for the front end and kind of where we're going with it. So doing them in a satin black as well as the top triple, it brings that whole front end together and makes it look very unique and integrated. So
right now, when we talk about the top triple,
yeah,
it's beautiful and smooth, but it seems to be missing something.
Right.
This used to have a key lock, right?
Exactly.
It had the tumbler for the key.
Right. So because I'm going to be mounting the gauges up here, and the key was, you obviously couldn't get at it if the gauge was in the way. We just went ahead and milled that off, and then I sent that out to powder.
Right.
Yeah.
What about the side stand?
Right, so because we raised the suspension on this bike, we're up 1.5 inches.
Right.
I had to actually adjust the kickstand accordingly or the bike would have been leaning too far over.
Right.
So I went ahead and cut the kickstand just using the stock knuckle, re-welded on a new longer extension, and basically reworked the whole thing.
Right.
Now it's 1.5 inches longer, so when the bike is on the side stand, it actually stands up properly.
Nice. So Rob, as we look at everything here in terms of paint, the big question in my mind right now is, where's the saddle and what's happening in terms of paint color with the tank?
Well, the paint job I'm keeping a secret. I don't want Yamaha to know about it, so I can reveal it at the very end and kind of blow them away.
Okay.
So,
Nice.
And the seat at the moment is off in California being stitched up at Tough Side.
Yeah.
And the back rack is still in R&D.
Right.
So once that's all together, that'll be almost our final reveal, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's been fabulous to follow along Project No Name to date, but you've got a lot done, and I feel like we're in the home stretch, eh?
Yeah, for sure. Sounds good. Yeah.
Looking good.
Cool.
Nice.
Okay, now we've got you all fired up for another season of riding. Stay tuned, because next, Shifting Gears segment editor Jenn Martin says practice makes perfect. Stay with us. Portions of this broadcast are brought to you in part by Honda Canada, Suzuki Canada, and BMW Motorrad. Welcome back to Motorcycle Experience. I'm Dave Hatch, and we'll wrap up our show now with Shifting Gears. This week, it's all about practice sessions at your local mall or high school parking lot. Here now is professional motorcycle instructor Jenn Martin.
Jen, what I love about doing these segments is whether I'm working with you or Toni Sharpless or Clinton Smout, it seems like whenever we get together to shoot segments for the show, I learn something. And I realize I'm always learning, and there's always more stuff to learn.
Yep, that goes with anything, and that talks about our skills with the motorcycles as well. We can always get sharper at what we're doing.
Right. So you're a professional riding instructor up at Georgian College. You've been doing this for how long?
Okay, a few years.
A few years?
Yeah.
So somebody comes up, they get their license, they're good to go for the rest of their life.
Yeah, that's it. They don't need to invest in themselves at all. No,
Right.
I mean, we know in any other sport, you know, golfing or whatever, they have coaches. They have people that help them move on to the next level. We can always become better. And I even think teaching the courses that we do, you know, I'm a better rider for it because I'm continually reinforcing and practicing skills that I'm demanding of our students.
Right. So when we talk about rider experience, we still say you should go out every year and practice your riding. It's a sport. But what about refresher courses or different types of courses?
There's tons of different courses out there. You've got advanced rider skills, you've got, you know, even off-road, something to add to your, you know, training repertoire. You've got track days that can teach you some things that, you know, certainly there's things that you learn that stay on the track, but there can be applications for your regular road riding. I think just like anything else in life, you need to be a bit uncomfortable. You know, you need to try something that makes you uncomfortable to become better at what you're doing.
Well, I know maybe 10 years ago, I took some off-road riding courses, and that completely changed me as a street rider. So you think it's a good idea to continually try to push yourself and improve your skills?
Yeah, and I mean, certainly with the off-road training, if you go out to some of the places, you'll use their bikes. So you're learning on someone else's bike. So if that's the fear, you know, I'm going to drop my motorcycle, you know, you got to get over that. Go to places that you can use their motorcycles and push yourself to the next level.
Right. You get your license when you're 16, 18, 20, 22. That's not where it stops. That's actually where it starts.
That's where it starts, and I think people need, you know, motorcyclists, we need to invest back in ourselves because, like we've talked about slow speed skills, we've talked about emergency braking, that type of thing. Any additional courses that you can do to help you with that, and being viewed by a coach, like somebody who knows what it is that they're looking for and can just set you to the next level. Like, did you know you were doing this? And you're like, I didn't know I was doing it. So now you're more aware and you can start developing muscle memory to combat that.
Yeah, and you can develop bad habits.
Oh, yeah, we all can.
Well, not me.
Well, no.
Thank you, some great advice.
Well, that's it for this week's program, folks. We're all out of time, and I've got to hit the road. But before we leave, I just want to remind you, be sure to check out our website and get all the details on our upcoming Motorcycle Experience Film Festival, Friday, June 9th in Picton, Ontario. We've got 3 classic films and Honda demo rides. How good is that? Anyway, till next week, keep your feet on the pegs and your right hand crank. Bye for now.